So check it out. It's Friday. It's Friday morning. It's time for another episode of the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. I'm your host, Steve Casillo. Let me just adjust this microphone here just a little bit. And it's fall. You can feel it in the air. It is so much fall right now that right over here over my left shoulder, here in the studio, is Phillip Washington Jr. wearing his hoodie. It looks brand new.
It is brand new, from the NBA store. A couple of maybe like 4 or 5 days old.
Okay, and explain to the audience what you're wearing.
So I'm a Texas fan, born and raised in Houston, Texas. Lived in San Antonio and Dallas, but I've always cheered for Texas teams. But San Antonio specifically, near and dear to my heart because it's where I fell in love with my dear sweetness and where we were married. So it's a special place for me.
San Antonio Spurs.
San Antonio Spurs.
There
Yes,
you have
sir.
it.
Want to see the back? Show them the back.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Hey, plus I didn't say it on my podcast. Greg Popovich is actually like one of my favorite coaches of all time.
There you go. I tell you what. Hey, today's September 30th, and you know what today is?
What is today?
It's the first day of the state fair.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It is.
You gonna pack up the kids and the wife? And
we are going in a week, and some change.
A week and some change.
Yeah.
All right. Today is. By the way, it's also Big Tex. It's his 75th birthday.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Big Tex getting up there in age.
Yeah. I wonder if he's. I was going to make an investment comment, and I got nothing. And you were explaining. We talked about this off the air. You were explaining to a client today childbirth.
Yeah. So good. So I got a message from a client that looked at her portfolio, and she went, "Man, market was down a lot in the last 45 days." And I went, "Yeah, you want to talk?" So we had a 7-minute market chat, and I said, the best way to simply explain what's going on right now in the market is, I was like, God gifted us with these amazing, wonderful creatures called mothers, and the great thing about mothers is like there would not be life without the mother going through childbirth, right? We couldn't have life without mothers.
Right.
So the downside is like for mothers is like the childbirth part. And that part for mothers, and I don't know from experience, but from what I see, it's just not great when they're going through the process. I said so this time period right now that we're in is like when I was in the room with my wife and she was looking at me and she just was angry because of the pain that
Get me out of here!
that our desire inflicted on her in the moment. But after the child was born, right, she forgot about the pain. She felt great. We reveled in the beauty of our beautiful boys. And I said, so like right now, I don't have any words to soothe how you feel. Like how you feel is how you feel. And that's completely legit because the market is ugly. I was like, however, like, the child's coming, right? Like change is coming. And so anytime you have any sort of change, right, you have the death of an old economic ideas and birth of new economic ideas, which are happening, right? You just have these periods of like childbirth pain, and that's what we're in, right? But life always continues, and we continue to evolve. This is just part of the process.
And just a reminder to people who invest, okay, who, especially to those who say, "Oh, I lost 20% in the last 5 months." Only if you cashed out.
Oh yeah. Only if you cash out. Let's take the childbirth analogy. Like, and this is, I want to say this sensitively, but you cannot give up through the process of childbirth, or you won't experience the child.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the reality of investing is your investment is an expression of an idea. So like if you put all your money into Apple stock, then your idea is is going to be manifested based on like whether Apple does well or not 10 years from now, right? That's your bet. most wealth managers like myself, like we build a globally diversified portfolio. So the bet ends up being, hey, we think the world as a whole will continue to evolve and do business and change, right? We might have individual iterations on it, like we might overweight tech, the future, and underweight, other areas. But as a whole, it's pretty diversified. So the bet is, hey, I bet we would continue to evolve our economic societies over time because we always have.
Yeah.
The deal is, like I said, along the way, when there's pain and you're down 20%, like you said, if you sell, you lock in the loss, right? But you also like don't express, the creation. So if you're down, like, yeah, that's like that's just the pain period.
Right.
Stick with it. And
there will be a beautiful child at the end.
There will be a beautiful child at the end of it, right? Or the world ends.
Which, okay.
Yeah, I mean, then you're not worried about having children, at the end of the world ends.
Let's get into the topic now that we've killed 4 minutes of what debt and inflation symbolize. And you because you talked about this on your Wealth Building Made Simple podcast, you got into Game of Thrones and you get pretty deep into this. What debt and inflation symbolize?
I give the simple version. So debt is bondage, right?
Yeah.
For consumption, which is different than leverage, right? So consumption is like I'm gonna use debt to like pay for things that I want and need, right? Leverage is when other people give you money because they think that they have faith in you and your ability to bring them more money in the future, right? That's leverage.
Right.
That's for investment. But debt is for consumption, right? And so debt is not good. Leverage is what it is, right? It's positive when it works. Inflation is like death, right? Inflation is the equivalent of like an old idea dying, right? So we talked about childbirth. Let's talk about what happens when an economy dies, right? That's inflation. And so from a money standpoint, there are people that walk around with the belief that they can cheat death, and they do all kinds of things to their body, and no judgment on it, but I'm just saying, like, they try to cheat death and they realize at some point in time that stuff doesn't work.
Right.
Right? Like, death is just a normal, natural, beautiful part of life. Just like childbirth is, right? And so I'm saying that to say, when people keep their money in old dying ideas, so they say, I don't like the fact that the world is changing, right? I don't understand this Bitcoin. I don't understand, crypto. I don't understand digital economy. Like, I don't understand e-commerce. Like, I don't understand this. I don't understand podcasting. So I'm going to take my money and I'm going to go put it over here where it's safe, which basically means I'm going to put it in places based on like old ideas of what the world used to look like. And what always happens historically, 100% of the time in the past, you go look it up, is that money gets inflated away. It dies.
So who are some of the new money makers that right now in this new digital economy?
Yeah. So once you stop looking at the past and you don't got it, people say, well, how do I predict the future? You don't have to. Just open your eyes to today. So you just go, look, Joe Rogan got paid $100 million, $200 million.
I think two.
Yeah, a couple podcasters got paid $200. Bill Simmons was the other one that got $100 or $200 million for podcasting. I mean, and these are like the big numbers. Then you got a bunch of like podcasters that are making $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $400,000 doing that. You have a bunch of new crypto billionaires, right? Even with the drop, they're still like super rich. You have us in Texas experiencing people in California moving here, like they all got rich over the last 2 decades on just the digital economy, right? Which is still rising and still growing, right? And that's like e-commerce, that's social media, that's lots of different things. It's even from an investment standpoint, the people that look at Apple. If you bought, I think I did an episode on Apple stock, right? If you bought like Apple stock, like the infrastructure of the digital age, Like you did well and you're still doing relatively well. So just look and see, all right, go find 20-year-olds and say, how are 20-year-olds getting rich today? And that will point you to like springtime. I call it springtime.
Yeah.
20-year-olds will show you what spring and I think I'm glad you asked me this, and I said this because what happens is the people that die of inflation, they look and they judge the 20-year-olds. They be like, oh, these kids are dumb, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, but they're making all the money.
Right.
Without
even from something as simple as buying a pair of Nike shoes and reselling it for profit.
Exactly. I mean, the innovation happening in the 20-year-olds is like, you can't keep up with it. People ask me like, give me some ideas. There's infinite ideas. Like, just go watch a 20-year-old because they're making stupid amounts of money doing a bunch of different things while you have people over here that the old world is saying, we got to fight wars. We got to bribe politicians. We got to enforce this to keep our to keep the old way in force. You got to use force.
I heard someone smart say that it's called the new generation.
Yes, exactly. Literally, like the new generation. Yeah. Like generation. If you look at the word generation, I think it's interesting to look up what that word actually means. That like generation means to generate, to like create anew.
Yeah. And this all comes back to the birth of a child.
Birth of a child.
And that we, not you and I, but creating and wading through that childbirth period, which is what we're in right now. And at the end of the line comes a beautiful child.
Comes a beautiful child. And it's a beautiful process all around. But when you're in the thick of it, from what I hear and experienced watching from my wife, it's painful,
Yeah.
But,
If someone wanted to reach out to you and maybe discuss childbirth or finances in general, how do they reach out to Phillip Washington Jr.?
Don't ask me about childbirth.
Yeah.
StonehillWealthManagement.com, and if they want to get into podcasting, PhillipWashingtonJr.com.
That's Phillip Washington Jr. We do this every Friday right here on Facebook Live, or you're probably you or could be watching the video on YouTube or LinkedIn. You're probably or could be listening on your favorite podcast platform. Appreciate you being here. And Phillip, let's do it again next week.
Thanks for having me.